Good afternoon, Onefootballers, and welcome back to another week of our European Power Rankings. As mentioned every Thursday, this is where we take the top 10 best players from around Europe and compile them in some sort of list. But will Sergio Agüero be able to keep his spot at number 1? Will Lionel Messi surge back into the top 10? And where will Cristiano Ronaldo finish after firing a blank on the weekend? First off, as always, we come to our winners and losers of the week. First off, our losers of the week. Kepa, for obvious reasons, and refusing to be a sub to being completely embarrassed in the Chelsea loss against Manchester City in the Carabao Cup final. Second loser of the week, Kieran Trippier, the own goal against Chelsea. What on earth was he doing? That's them two out of the way. Now on to the winners. Both of them are from Liverpool's back line, and it's Virgil van Dijk and Trent Alexander-Arnold. Both of them had fantastic games against Watford, and Van Dijk was brilliant against Manchester United at the weekend. However, just one or two good games isn't always enough to get you into the top 10, so both of these players don't make the power rankings, but they are our winners of the week. But before we get into this week's top 10, just a quick reminder of the state of last week's table. Liverpool's defender Joel Matip was in there with some fantastic performances, as was Nicola Zaniolo, and Cristiano Ronaldo sat in third with Raheem Sterling runner-up to Sergio Agüero. So, how about for this week's power rankings? Well, let's start off, as we always do, with number 10, because where else will we start? And it is a goalkeeper flying the flag for keepers in the power rankings yet again. Last week he was in number 8, and this week he drops a few to number 10, but it's Marc-Andre ter Stegen. He may have conceded 2 goals in Barcelona's 4-2 victory over Sevilla at the weekend. However, he pulled off some brilliant saves in the Bernabeu in their Copa del Rey semi-final second leg, and really helped his Barcelona side through to the final. It's because of this he's managed to redeem himself from the weekend and just sneak into the top 10 in this week's power rankings. This actually means that Marc-Andre ter Stegen has 4 clean sheets in his last 5 appearances for Barcelona. That's pretty good going. Into number 9, and it's last week's number 9, and it's Joel Matip. Now, he may not always get the plaudits, much like his defensive partners Virgil van Dijk and Trent Alexander-Arnold do. They're the winners of the week for a reason, because they've had some fantastic headline-making games. But do not underestimate Joel Matip. Due to injuries to Dejan Lovren and Joe Gomez, Matip has filled in more than exceptionally well and still keeps his place in this week's power rankings after a brilliant clean sheets against Manchester United and Watford. Moving into number 8, and there is a reason why Barcelona have moved so quickly to sign him ahead of a busy summer transfer window, and it's Frenkie de Jong. Now, I know a load of you are going to let me know, Matt, he's only playing for Ajax in the Dutch league, and it's not the most competitive of leagues. However, as you'll find out with 1 or 2 more on this list, you can only beat what's in front of you, and Frenkie de Jong is sometimes doing that single-handedly. In the Ajax midfield, he is often controlling games just by himself, and even though they lost to Real Madrid in the Champions League, he still had a pretty decent game. Since then, he's been involved in 2 fantastic wins, including seeing him through to the next round of the Cup, and don't be surprised to see him put in another good performance when they go to the Bernabeu for the second leg. Also, don't be surprised if by next season's power rankings, Frenkie de Jong is in there every week in Barcelona's kit. Okay, into this week's number 7, and we have a fallen giant in the shape of last week's number 1, Sergio Agüero. Now, this isn't actually to any fault of his own, but the fact that some other players are really banging in the goals, something he hasn't done in the last few games. Over the weekend, as mentioned before, Chelsea and Manchester City finished in a 0-0 stalemate in the cup final, and Sergio Agüero was actually really lucky to score his penalty in the shootout, with the ball squirming under keeper Kepa. However, in midweek, he did manage to score a penalty against West Ham, the only goal of the game, but this isn't quite the hat-trick bagging Aguero we've been used to in the last few weeks, so he drops down to number 7. Have no fear though, Manchester City fans, the amount of chances that you create, I'm sure he'll be back in the goal-scoring charts and back higher up the table within the coming weeks. In at number 6, and despite a 0-0 draw against Lazio in the next round of the Italian Cup, Krzysztof Piątek and AC Milan are on fire recently. His goal against Empoli at the weekend means he now has 5 goals in his last 4 games, and his move, his £33 million move, is looking more and more worth a penny with every passing match. Gattuso literally has him to thank for saving his job, and Piątek sits in at number 6 in this week's power rankings. Moving on to number 5, and it's a name you'll be hearing much throughout the summer because of the massive names that are interested in his signature. Manchester City, Barcelona, Real Madrid and others are all interested in Frankfurt's on-loan striker Luka Jovic, and for good reason. Last week he bagged the first goal against Shakhtar Donetsk, in which saw Frankfurt eventually through to the next round of the Europa League, and at the weekend he managed to get on the score sheet again and provide 2 assists and win a Man of the Match award as Frankfurt swept aside Hannover 96. In at number 4, it's someone who's been firing the goals in the last few games and deservedly takes his place towards the high reaches of the power rankings. It's Luis Suarez. The striker scored 2 goals against Real Madrid in the Copa del Rey final second leg to add to his fantastic chip that he scored against Sevilla at the weekend. Now, I know that Suarez may be aging and there are a lot of people talking about whether or not Barcelona will replace him in the summer, but for now, he has to be the number 1 striker at the club, and to be honest, on recent form, I wouldn't go looking for a replacement just yet. Moving into the top 3 now, and it's last week's number 3, it's Cristiano Ronaldo. Now, I know what you're thinking, he didn't have the best game against Bologna. Well, he actually was pretty decent, just didn't find himself on the score sheet. Cristiano Ronaldo is one of these players who will always be a menace, and you can never give him time or space. For him to be completely out of the game, or for the defenders to think he's completely out of the game, is completely wrong, as he can turn things on just like that. Despite not scoring, as I mentioned, he does have 4 goals and 3 assists in the last 5 games, and so just about keeps his place in the top 3. However, CR7, if you don't start finding the back of the net soon or providing assists, you may be slipping further down the table. And now, finally, we come to our top 2, where, as always, I'll present you with both arguments before announcing the winner. First up is Lionel Messi. Now, you may remember he was actually last week's loser because he'd slipped out of the top 10. Those are some good performances that he put in those weeks, but they just weren't good enough. However, oh my God, at the weekend, he bagged a hat-trick against Sevilla, the 50th in his career, his 44th for Barcelona. He put through a wonderful through ball to set up Luis Suarez for the 4th, and even though he didn't have his best game against Real Madrid on Wednesday night, he still got enough points to make sure he was in contention for top spot. Lionel Messi, an unbelievable week, but on the other hand, Kylian Mbappe, he's been on fire recently, and at the weekend he scored 2 more goals to help PSG open up an even more ridiculous lead at the top of Ligue 1. Now, much like with Frenkie de Jong at Ajax, I know you're going to say he's not playing in the greatest league. However, Mbappe has to go out and score the goals every week. He can't just stand there and expect it all to happen. He's still doing the business. So with Messi just making his way back into the top 10 and Mbappe continuing to fire in the goals, who is this week's number 1? Well, I can reveal it's Lionel Messi. Now, I know most of you are going to be like, what? He was the loser last week. He's walked straight into number 1. But with his ratings over the last 5 games and his ridiculous score from the weekend, he has just managed to pip Kylian Mbappe to top spot. However, the French striker is sitting in very nicely at number 2, and should he find more goals at the weekend, he could well overtake the Argentinian into the number 1 spot. So there you have it for this week. Let me know in the comment section all of your thoughts on today's power rankings. Who do you think should have been in the top 3? Who wasn't in the top 10 that you would have liked to seen in there? And who are your winners and losers of the week? Of course, you can also smash the like button whilst you're down there and click here to check out all of the other videos that we've got going on Onefootball. But until next time, until next Thursday's power rankings, I will see you guys later.